Hello everyone, we are back for yet another stream. This one isn't quite a surprise stream. I am sort of covering and taking over for Gaz today, who has some other commitments that he has to get to. So we're not going to hear from Gaz on the stream today, on his hobby stream today, unfortunately, his view and brews. However, we are still going to stream something here for Sitrep Podcast, and I'm joined once again by my friend Piotr, and we are going to look again at, we're going to do another turn or two in our Valor and Victory Dien Bien Phu game.
Hello, everybody.
Cool. So, hello, because science teacher, Skobak, Rasmus, thanks very much for coming by and joining us once again. And, yeah, I won't go through all the history again, all the previous turns, because, again, we've done that literally day by day now. So, I would propose that we just get immediately into this. The situation is now the beginning of VietMinh turn 4. This is now the second half of the game. In turn-wise, I don't think it's going to last another 3 turns. I'm pretty sure that things here are pretty much going to wrap up much more quickly than the first half of the turn.
Half of the countries is gone.
Yeah, well more than half. Yeah, so that's what's left on the table. Oh, by the way, let me go ahead and clean up the map here. All this is gone. 1, 2, 3, 4 more unsecured casualties. More destroyed counters, more destroyed officers, and a whole lot of VietMinh squads toast, along with expended grenades. So yeah, that's the boneyard. The boneyard is insane at this point. That's what's left, and that's what's already been eliminated one way or the other. It's been another massacre. First Indochina War took few prisoners. I do currently, by default, sort of own 2 of his objective hexes. I own all 3 bunkers. The remaining 3 objective hexes, again marked by these yellow targeting icons, are further here to the northwest. I don't think I'm going to take any more of them, especially since 2 M24 Chaffee tanks have arrived and have already taken my forces under no small amount of fire. So yeah, I'm hurting for certain, to be sure. Okay, so just to kind of get things going here, we're going to begin VietMinh turn 2. VietMinh turn 4. So the first thing that happens is command phase. That's going to be pinned units are going to rally. Awesome. Next thing that happens is I'm going to divide or combine any squads I may or may not want to. I actually don't think I want to do any of these. Okay, cool. That'll be it for my my divisions or whatever. My divisions and my combinations of squads and a half squads. Reassign support weapons, that kind of stuff. Command phase is also when you call in support missions, but we've both already used up our whatchamacallits. So that's going to be it for that. We both already used up all of our support missions, our off-board support missions. So command phase is going to start going a lot more quickly. So we go to direct fire phase. I don't really have a lot. Wow, that's really annoying. Let me see if I can minimize that problem. An OBS window kind of popping up through my Excel spreadsheet. Hopefully that took care of most of that. Okay, so my direct fire. I don't think I really have any real lines of sight. At least none that I really want to use. Again, bunkers have a 4 firing arc, and I can't fire through the back of a bunker. So that's why units in L6, Kilo 7, and India 7 are not opening fire, among other reasons. So yeah, we're going to skip past command phase. We're going to skip past direct fire phase. We're going to go straight into VietMinh movement.
So you're actually making a push for the third objective fix?
Only because I don't want to be gamey. The smart thing to do from a game perspective is just to sit here in these bunkers and run out the clock and at least take a partial victory. But I'm going to go ahead and not do that.
Okay, cool.
I'm basically committing suicide here, but that's fine. It's also it would make for a kind of a boring stream. These our audience did not show up to watch me, pretty much just sit here and do nothing. What fun is that? You can only put 2 infantry units in a hex. I'm sorry, 2 infantry units in a bunker hex. I've made that mistake like 1,900 times now, so I don't want to do that again. Hey, this guy's almost through the barbed wire. Finally. This trailing little half platoon here. So that's 1, 2 to elevate. 3. And to go into there would cost him 2 more. He does not have an officer with him, so he'll stay put for now. I'll go ahead and push this back. Which reminds me, all this time I haven't had my little unit flag on the map. Yeah, I should not say elements. This should edit this to remnants of the 98th Infantry Battalion. So let me go ahead and finish updating this remnants, because Yavasa is a big meanie head who kills all my guys. Oh wait, okay, let me go ahead and take that out of there. There we go. It's just remnants of 98th Infantry Battalion. How about that?
Both are true.
There we go. Now it's a little more historically accurate. Okay, so that's going to be my movement, and now we'll talk about your
opportunity fire.
Yes, opportunity fire.
So, that's going to be interesting. But I have a question.
Yep.
Could you switch back to turn 3 to the where we stopped?
That's the situation at the end of turn 3.
So I was wondering how you managed to put these guys from M6 to K4, because they had to go through another stack of barbed wire.
M6 to K4. Okay. M6 to K4, you can do 1.
Oh, this way. Okay.
L6, and then they follow the trench.
Cool.
Because they have an officer with them, it's 1, 2. I think they have an officer with them. Uh-oh.
Yeah, they have an officer with them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. It costs them 2 to get into L6 because they're climbing an elevation level.
Okay, cool. So I will try to hit them hard as I can. So the stack with
Lieutenant
barrels.
Yep.
Yes. We'll try to shoot them in the face because they just came out of the curve.
Oh yeah, totally. All right, so we're looking at a total of 11 points. You get -2 for point blank opportunity fire. I do get +2 for trench, so that comes out to a wash. You get -1 for Barros's leadership. So it's 11 minus 1.
Okay, let's do this. And it's a 6.
6 becomes a 5. That's 4 casualty points. I will knock both of those full squads down to 2 half squads down to 2 half squads.
Okay, cool.
Now again, there's a reason for that. Legally, I could have just taken out 1 full squad as long as I account for 4 casualty points, but there is a slight game advantage to having more squads, or more half squads rather than one full squad. Stack is still legal. Okay. Any other opportunity fire? Well, not on that hex, because okay. Well, yeah. Any other opportunity fire?
I believe that Luciani can also see this huge stack and can support these guys.
Yep.
That will soon probably be a target of an assault.
So yeah, normally we do all the counter fire against the stack at once, but no worries. You do not get -1 for darkness, -2 for my trench, no -1 for long range opportunity fire because there is a terrain bonus in the hex, -2 for your leadership bonus. So a net +1. You have a total of 7 points. 50 cal plus Luciani himself.
And it's a 6.
6 becomes a 7. That is 1 casualty point.
And since we should focus on one target, the guy in Juliet 4 will also shoot them with the same stack of yours.
Okay. 3. Now he is point blank, so he gets the -2, +2 for my woods. For my trench. No darkness. He's just going to be straight out 3 points.
Oh my god, it's an 11.
Had no effect.
And I don't think anybody else can see these guys of yours running around. So that would be it for my opportunity fire.
Okay, so now I've completed my movement. We're kind of supposed to do opportunity fire during movement, but that's cool. I was kind of going too fast on my movement phase. So we're going to go straight to defensive fire.
So we have some mortars that we would like to call in.
Yep.
And both of them will focus on the same hex.
Okay, so roll 6 twice. You are adding 2 for my trenches.
Yep. So the first one is a 9.
Becomes a 11, no effect.
And the second one is a 4.
4 becomes a 6, that is 2 casualty points. Okay.
And I believe that... what the hell? No, I cannot see anything else. So that's it.
Okay, yeah, the tanks are blocked by that... the tanks are blocked by that building, by the governor's house.
For fun, they could shoot you at Juliet 6, actually.
Yeah, they can totally shoot at a different target. They just aren't shooting at Juliet 4. Or, sorry,
yeah,
was that Kilo 4? Yeah, Kilo 4.
That's true. So, maybe let's try to...
hit... let's actually get their arc of fire properly measured here. Because why have tanks if you don't shoot them? I totally screwed up by giving you those tanks, game design wise. But it's fun to have tanks, so it's worth it. They cannot see this hex, but anything south of that they can see. So their line of sight, as far as that building goes, pretty much begins at that yellow line and extends south from there.
Okay, so we should try to hit this stack at kilo 6 it is, or kilo 7, I don't know, I cannot see, kilo 6.
Kilo 6 is this hex right here.
Yeah,
okay,
so we should try to do some damage over there.
Spoilers for the chat, that's totally why I hooked that attack to the north. I was trying to use that governor's house as cover against those tanks. Yes, there's a 50 cal in that governor's house, which is bad enough, but there's 2 50 cals on those tanks, plus 30 cals, plus 75mm HE guns with flechette ammunition, so no thanks. I'd rather take the 50 cal. When getting shot by the 50 cal is the better option, you know you're under a lot of fire. Alright, so, the tanks have to fire separately. You've got 17 points because all your weapons are within range and within arc. You do have to take off -1 for darkness. These...
Is this flare still available or not?
Oh, yeah. The flare is still up. I was just... Okay, never mind. Yeah, you don't have to take anything off for darkness.
So just a +2 for the trenches, yes?
Yep. 17 at +2.
Okay. So, first roll is a 10, so nothing.
10 becomes a 12, no effect.
And the second tank... Oh, it's a 3.
3 becomes a 5, 4 casualty points.
Okay, and now I'm done.
Awesome. Time to begin VietMinh advance and assault phase. We have 2 assaults coming in. One of them is probably going to fail, one of them is probably going to succeed. Alright, so I have, we'll do the one that's going to fail first. Out of Kilo 4 into Juliet 3, we have Lieutenant Ding what's his name? Din Zuan Tu, who is going to go ahead and lead his survivors in. Sapper team, jump in that trench and blow yourself up. Alright, so here comes in Mr. Sapper team. I got a grand total of 5 points. Mr. Pin Guy does not get to participate because he's pinned. So I only have those 5 points. Sapper team with a light machine gun, the Sapper team himself, and Mr. Din Juan. However, I do get to take off 1 for Din Juan's leadership bonus. I get to take off 2 for the Sapper team. So I'm talking about a grand total of -3. 5 versus your 11. That comes out to 1-3 against me, I'm sorry to say. So this is the one that's probably going to fail. Because you threw a lot of fire at it. But that's okay. 1-3, I have to roll a 4 or less. I get to take 3 off my roll. So now I'm looking for a 7 or less.
Do I have any grenades left?
I'm not sure. Let's go. He's determined to hold that trench. I think you have... Oh yeah, you got 3 grenades left.
So let's throw 1 in.
Alrighty. So now I have to roll a 6 or less.
50-50.
No, 7 or less is 50-50. 6 or less, it's actually less. Now now the chance is less than 50-50 for me. You are probably going to win this assault now. Alright, cool. 6 or less. Come on, lucky dice. Give it to me. 12. Hell no.
God damn it. I need a sniper, man.
Sorry. Yeah, it's not during an assault. But only you, Piotr, would get a 12 to defend against an assault, and you're complaining. You're like, God damn it, I want a sniper. Come on, man. Alright, just for fun, I have to take 1. I mean, I know I'm wiped out. First of all, the Sapper team blew himself up, so he doesn't even count. So there's literally now 1 casualty point in that assault. How many times exactly did this guy die? Let's see. I have to take 1 casualty point for every infantry unit that was in the hex. There are 3 infantry units in that hex. I have to take 1 casualty point for every terrain bonus. You're in trenches, that's 2. So far I'm at -5. I also have to take a casualty point for every number by which I missed the roll. I needed a 6, I rolled a 12. So I have to take 11 casualty points. 2 plus 3 plus 6 is 11 casualty points. Lieutenant Tu here has literally died 11 times. He jumped into your trench and tried to assault you. Needless to say, that assault did not go well.
It's just like in the movies, man.
Now, you do have to take 2 casualty points, because there were 2 casualty units involved in my 2 infantry units involved in my assault.
Actually, you're not going to assault me from any direction. You cannot shoot at me anytime soon. So we will pin both squads.
Cool. Yeah, I don't. You're not. Also, the turn sequence. I'm in my advance on assault phase. Almost immediately now, you get to your command phase is coming up, and your stuff's automatically going to rally anyway. So it's not a big deal. Alrighty. Now for the other assault, that might go a little bit better, hopefully. You have 3. I have a total of 13. That gives me 4-1. I have a sapper. That's 4-1. Subtract 2. Do you want to throw in any grenades?
No, not really.
Yeah,
Don't want to waste them.
It's almost a waste of a grenade. All right, so 4 to 1 subtract 2. I think I need like a 4. I think I need like a 12 or less. Yeah, 4 to 1. I get to add 2 to my roll, so basically I can't fail. It will still cost me, however. Yeah, now I get the 6 when I don't need it. That 6 would have been nice one roll ago. That 12 that I rolled a second ago, ironically, would have still succeeded. If those 2 dice rolls had come in the opposite order, both those stacks would be wiped out. But that's okay. So that's destroyed. That is an unsecured casualty for me. I have to pay 3 casualty points. I'll go ahead. Well, first of all, he blows himself up. And because he's a sapper team. And this guy is down 2, and he's now pinned. And we now own that hex. I'm going kind of fast here, guys, because I'm assuming that, I know Yavasa knows the rules, and people that are in the chat have been with us for a little while, so I'm assuming that they know the rules. So I'm going to kind of buzz through these phases here a little bit more quickly. So that is another, I'm just copy-pasting another unsecured casualty point here in my VietMinh boneyard. Alright, cool, for scoring purposes. Alright, I'm now going to try and rally my 2 units that are pinned as part of my VietMinh after action phase. I'm sorry.
You're not doing any more movements? Assault movements?
Advance and assault move. I don't think so.
No. Cool.
That flare's about to die out. So I want to crawl into the crater with one of my last officers. Good question, but no.
Okay.
Alright, so after action phase, Kilo 4, he succeeds. Juliet 4, he succeeds. Now I get really good rolls. Look at that. Awesome. Alrighty. That concludes VietMinh turn 4. We now begin your turn number 4. First thing we do is we update flares. That flare now fizzles away. It goes from 2 to 1, and then it goes from 1 to 0.
Yes, indeed.
Of course, you have 3 more flares if you want.
Okay, so let's rally these guys in Juliet 3 or Juliet 4, I don't know. No more rallies, everyone else is dead. So, direct fire. So let's put a flare from the mortar at Echo 2 and drop it at Juliet 5.
Stab, crackle, pop.
Boom. The second mortar will try to pin your guys in Kilo 4.
Second mortar, pin my guys in. I'm sorry, you said Kilo. Oh, Kilo 4. Got it. Okay,
Kilo
is
4.
Barros? So Barros is calling that in, I'm assuming. Are you applying Barros's -1 modifier to this, or are you saving that for later in the turn?
No, I will apply his
Okay.
-1.
Cool, so it's +2 for my trench, -1 for Barros equals total of +1. White row +1.
It's a 6.
6 becomes a 7, that is 1 casualty point. I'll go ahead and... Well, I'm going to go ahead and pin him down. I know he's doomed. But the only other thing I can do there is just kill the squad right now. So... Actually, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to be cheesy, I'm going to overpay. I'm going to overpay. Oh, you did a casualty point on me? I don't want to pin him, I choose to kill him. And yes, now I'm being straight out gamey. Because otherwise, if I pin him, Rasmus knows what's going on. If I pin him, you assault and you get a POW.
No, actually okay, cool, but my plan was to pin this guy in K, in Kilo 4 and pin your guys with Luciani's help at Juliet 4 or 5, or in Juliet 4, and then assault with Barros, because I didn't want to waste an assault on this guy. I wanted to pin Kilo 4, so then I could can pin Juliet 4 and assault Juliet 4.
Okay.
That was my plan, but okay, since you want to do it this way,
well,
not a problem.
In an actual like competitive game or a tournament game, I wouldn't know that, so that's the reason I'm overpaying there.
Okay. So now let's try to hit your guys in Juliet 4 with Luciani from the governor's house.
Okay. No darkness penalty because I'm under flare light, so just -2 for your officer, +2 for my trench, makes 7 points at 0 benefit or penalty.
And it's a 6.
6 becomes 2 casualty points.
Still a full squad over there.
Oh, that's a full squad. Oh.
Yeah, that's a full squad.
In that case. If you want to assault that hex, it's going to cost you.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I possibly can.
So I'm thinking if I should actually do that. Because I can shoot you. With barrels. And
yeah, barrels is point blank and it's trench combat. It'll be a +1 and you get... here's the thing. We ran across this before. We've also run across this in Dylan's games. Because you started the turn already adjacent to me, you don't have to choose between shooting me and assaulting or assaulting me. You can do both.
Oh, actually that's true. So Barros now will try to soften your defenses.
Yep. So they literally just pour a bunch of fire in there and then fix bayonets and just run in. So we're looking at 11 points again, total +1 on the gray column. Am I right about that? 8. Yes, 11 points on the gray column, add 1 to the roll.
Okay. And it's a 6 again.
6 becomes a 7, that is 2 casualty points. Okay, now I gotta remove a unit.
So I have to actually use everything against these guys. So maybe now Nicole from the sandbags at Foxtrot 4 will try to also hit these guys.
Yep. He can see because he is in a sandbag, so he's not subterranean or whatever. He's not below ground level. So he can shoot into a non-adjacent trench hex with no problem. That's going to be 5 points, +2, -2. No darkness penalties because I'm under flare light. So white row, no modifiers.
And it's a 5.
Becomes 3 casualty points. That stack is wiped out.
Cool. Now the tanks.
Oh no!
So Kilo 6 is the target for my both tanks.
Okay, got it. That is not a bunker hex. Go for it.
So
17
gray
+2.
roll +2.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a 7.
Becomes a 9, miss.
And the second tank is a 5.
Becomes a 7, 2 casualty points.
And that will be all when it comes to my direct fire.
Yep. Over to your movement phase.
My movement phase.
Nobody that fired can move.
So I don't think I will do any movement, and we can skip to your defensive fire.
Alright, I will go ahead and fire what I forgot I could fire last turn, but that's my fault. There is a line of sight between sandbags, because he's in sandbags, not in a trench, and my little fire base down here. Now, am I in range? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, barely. Yes, I am in range, believe it or not. Also, I'm not sure if these guys fired previously from that position, so I may have been subject to darkness rules. but they have now fired for certain. I have a -2 for your sandbags. I have a +2 for your sandbags, +1 for darkness. Shooting at muscle flashes. I have a -2 for my commander, so it's 15 +1 is for my defensive fire. 15 +1, do it! A 4 becomes a 5.
4 casualty.
That is 4 casualty points.
So let's destroy
Something can survive.
So let's destroy the half squad and pin Nicole. And casualty mark.
Yeah, Rasmus, this is definitely another slaughter. I'm having a tough time balancing these Dien Bien Phu assault games. We did okay on our whatchamacallit game, but so far I haven't had very much luck in balancing this thing. And again, what we were saying before is historically, the crater is there, the tanks are there. There were multiple assaults on Eliane 2 or Eliane 2. The crater was only there for the later battles. The tanks were only there for the earlier battles. The tanks showed up later in the night. This is kind of an amalgamation of several Eliane 2 battles, kind of all mashed into one. It's fine. We're just literally just playing around here. But I'm pretty sure that the VietMinh are pretty much toast in this one, yet again. Although again, I may either win or tie, or maybe even come close on casualty points. So let me not say that this is a screwed up scenario yet. But it's definitely bloody. To address your comment, it is hella bloody, which is probably the one thing we're getting right, because these Dien Bien Phu battles were not for the faint of heart. These were really knockdown dragouts. Literally war-ending battles. Okay, so I think that's it for my oh wait, technically I've got 4 points here. Although he's got nothing adjacent, I can shoot at this guy with the 50 cal. So 4 points plus 3. I have to roll a 3 or less to do anything. Yeah, it might be worth it to silence that freaking 50 for a little bit. I literally need a 3 or less on this. This is K6 to Hotel 3.
50 cents approved.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, everything else is either blinded by backdoor bunkers, or that almost sounds like a porn video. Backdoor bunkers, the X-rated version. That's horrible. All right, moving swiftly forward. That's that was terrible. I'm gonna get thrown off Twitch.
Well, but actually you're kind of right, because I don't know if you know, but probably you know that they had a brothel over there in Dien Bien Phu.
Yes, I did. I found that in the order of battle. They actually had a. It's actually an actual unit. I can't remember what their official term is for it, but it's like a field service support unit. It's effectively a brothel.
Something like that.
Yeah, they make up a nice clinical name for it, but it's pretty much morale support.
I believe it was under the Castries.
Oh well, I'm sure it was under, above, on the side, flipped over, in the front, and the back, and we'll go ahead and change the subject now before we get legit thrown off of Twitch. Yeah, that'll be it for my defensive fire. Over to your advance and assault phase.
I don't think I should move anything at all. But I will actually move these guys that are in Juliet 3 into Juliet 4. Because you cannot shoot them.
The great Moroccan counterattack has begun.
And the guys from Golf 5 into Golf 6.
Okay, for the record, these guys were here on turn 3. They were here on turn 4. They're now moving back to G6.
I didn't know how it would play out.
They're literally like, go forward, go back, go forward, go back. They used to do that to us in boot camp. They'd be like, get to this side of the squad mate. No, get back. No, go do it again. No, get back. These guys are like, we've already graduated recruit training, please. We're real soldiers now. Stop playing PT games with us.
And the medic from Hotel 4 will move into Golf 5. And that concludes my assault and advance.
Technically, Golf 4, the medic in Golf 4 can advance an assault into Foxtrot 4 and automatically evacuate the casualty if you want.
Oh yeah, that's actually true. Thanks for pointing that out.
No worries. Alright, so that's advance an assault phase, and then a casualty evacuation takes place, again for people in the chat, in the after action phase, so he can do both. So that medic belly crawls from G4 back up to Foxtrot 4, probably because Captain Nicode was like, we got a casualty, medic, medic, medic. He belly crawls through the darkness at the bottom of the trench and tries to evacuate that casualty. So, as a segue goes, going over to, if you're done with advance and assault, we'll go to your after action phase. Okay, so first of all, we now have a medic in the same hex as a casualty. A medic in a casualty hex can automatically evacuate 1 casualty per turn. That's regular evacuated casualty for regular, normal amount of victory points. And now we're going to try to rally Nicode himself. He gets a 6 or less on 2d6 because he is not elite.
Now it's a 7.
He fails to rally. Because he can't use his -2 on himself.
Yep.
And he's not elite. He's not part of an elite unit. He's not Foreign Legion para. He's a good officer. He's -2, but he's just been down at the moment. Okay, so that will conclude turn 4.
Yes, indeed.
All right, and then you said you wanted to go ahead and point it up.
I don't know. We can do the scoring, or if you want to, we can play. But actually, I don't think that you can do anything.
This
and
game is pretty much over from a VietMinh standpoint. That's for sure.
Just skipping the turn only to skipping your turn only to to do my turn. I don't know if it makes any sense. So maybe we could call it a draw.
We're going to call it a French victory. Yeah, we're going to call it. I'm not going to try and call it a draw. If I manage to squeak out, okay, look at my army. I mean, it's like 10 counters. Not even 9 counters. Let's go ahead and point it up.
Mobile artillery battery in the south.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about these guys. All right, so that actually would make a difference in my pointing. So, all right, let's go back to the construction tab. Here's where it becomes obvious just how badly I got the shit shot out of me. This is what I started with, and balanced against what I had left. Okay.
Actually, I do believe that the balance in this game was quite okay. The only thing I would try to change is maybe put the tanks a little bit later, maybe in the 5th round or something like that, or put only 1 tank in turn 4 or something like that. Because after we replayed Beatrice 1 for the 2nd time, we are getting historical results during this game. Actually,
yeah, this is actually not a bad historical result. Except the only thing that's not terribly historical is that the French are in too good a shape, casualty-wise, and the VietMinh are in too bad a shape, historical-wise. Because the French did launch, the VietMinh did take the southern tip of Eliane 2. They could not take the governor's house, just like I could not take it here. However, the subsequent French counterattack later on in the wee hours of the morning, I'm talking about the March 30th battle, was repulsed. If we were to play the rest of turns 5 and 6, and you were to actually do like an actual counter assault against my positions on the southern part of your hills to retake your bunkers, I don't think you would fail to retake them. So if we stop the game right now, we sort of have a historical result. But if we finish the game legit to turn 6, which we wouldn't be able to finish today, it would no longer be a historical result. But anyway, let me just figure out how many points I started with here.
Okay, cool.
1 plus 1. Alright, so per company or whatever, one officer, 2 for that squad, 2 for that squad, 1 for that squad, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 16 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 64 plus 1, 2, 3, 4. I started off with 68 officers or half squads. Hopefully I did that right. Please say I did that right. Starting VietMinh total 89 units. See, this is bullshit. What the hell did I do wrong here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 times 5, dummy. There's 5. Oh my god. I know math. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so it's 84 total. Objective hexes, I own 2. That gives me 40. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Sorry. You get 60. You have 3 victory points left. Alright, so we're figuring out your score first. 84 was my starting total number of units. What do I have left at the moment? 1, 2, 3, 4 down there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That means you killed 70. To my knowledge, you didn't take any POWs. So that is 130 points. VietMinh, starting French total units. Any day, Excel. Pretty please. It's 16 per company, and you've got 2 companies, so it's 32. The 2 tanks almost didn't even count because I didn't kill any of them, so it's not even. Oh god, what do you have left? Unfortunately for me, quite a bit. I didn't kill very much on this one. Oh, we don't even count it like that. We count it like this. Sorry, by casualty markers. Okay, so upside down ones are evacuated, and inverted ones are not evacuated. Holy crap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 5. So 12 unsecured casualties at 8 points apiece. 12 times 8, 96. 5 secured casualties at 4 points apiece makes 20. And then I own 2 objective hexes. 40 plus 96 plus 20. Okay, these point totals might be a little off, but according to the point totals, I actually won that game.
Yep.
But it doesn't look like I won the game. I mean, again, look at the map. To say that this was a VietMinh win would be tough.
But it's a win.
I guess. I guess, yeah, because I guess that would challenge the French player to do would be to not hold on to that frontal part of the. No, I don't know. I could talk myself into it. The only thing I can think of is that maybe the French are a little overpowered. Because the points are giving me a win, but look at the map and tell me that's a win. You know, no. So you won on the map board, I won on the score sheet. We can call it a draw if you want. But
why? You won fair and square. It's you know, it's the VietMinh victory.
Look at that. Look at these guys don't feel like winners right now. They're outnumbered.
They are alive.
They're outnumbered. Yeah, on that they definitely outlasted all their comrades, but they're outnumbered 2-1 by elite troops with tank support. I mean, I don't know.
Well, actually, you managed to kill almost all of the elite troops. There's only you know, the guy with the 50 in the command bunker.
Yeah. So on that part, we did get a historical result. Yeah. We did get, what was it? It was 6 troops and 1 officer left. From the para company, we have 1 officer and 4 men here, and then you have 4 men here. So you have 8 men and 1 officer out of that original paratrooper French Foreign Legion company. First company, first battalion is down to literally 9 men. Historically, it was 6 plus 1 is 7. So you have 2 extra men than the historical result. And I've got my two bunkers in the south. I've got the southern tip. No way in hell I could take the governor's house, but again, that was what we saw historically. So outside of maybe some tweaking in the points, because I think that the points are a little out of whack, this game gives it as a pretty solid VietMinh victory. I don't know if this is a VietMinh victory. And maybe when those tanks come in, or if those tanks come in, I would say the crater is incorrect historically, but the crater didn't really come into the game, so who cares? That's just a map error at this point. Yeah, I think this game went pretty well.
Yeah, it was a good game. I agree with the crater because it only appeared during the night of May 6th. But that's you know, not a problem because now we have a very versatile map that we can use for the beginning or the end of the Eliane fighting. So it doesn't really matter. And we have a strictly historical result when it comes to the map.
Semi-historical. Maybe too many Vietminh casualties. But the fourth company, 1st Battalion, 4th Moroccan Rifle Regiment did hold the governor's house and the base of that Eliane 2 salient. So they did well historically, and they did well on the table as well. So that part turned out pretty well. Yeah, Rasmus probably says it best. He calls it a Pyrrhic victory. Whether you want to call it a Pyrrhic victory, I want to call it a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, either way, it's a Pyrrhic victory for either of us or both of us, neither of us.
Yeah, still you won, but actually on the next day when the Langlais decided that actually we need to take back the Champs-Élysées or whatever it is said in French.
These forward trench axes here.
They did it, but they got repelled by artillery, so he had to pull back and decided that we are not going to take this ground anymore during the battle because it's too costly for us. Because
historically that counterattack was repelled by artillery.
Because they managed to, throw the Vietminh out of there, but then they got shelled from Old Baldy and the second hill. I don't remember the name now. It's my mind.
Old Baldy, for people in the chat, that is a hill that is not on the map because it's too big. It is slightly to the west. So if I can find an actual area map here.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah, it's over here someplace.
On the north, the map to the north, you have
there it is.
Baldy and Phony, and Phony.
Yeah.
So they got shelled from Baldy and Phony, and they decided that man, we're taking too many casualties from artillery. We need to pull back out of there, and
Okay. Well, if that's the history, then I would feel a little bit better about this result then, because I took the bottom part of the map, or the bottom part of the objectives. There's no way the infantry are going to hold against a determined Moroccan counterattack. So the Moroccans are going to counterattack later on in a second game. They're going to throw those few remaining Vietminh out of there. However, I'm then going to come in with another 11 or 10 or who knows how many heavy barrages and do enough casualties to where you're not going to hold those areas anyway. So it sounds like these trenches have switched hands at least 4 or 5, at least twice, if not 3 times. So the French had it, the VietMinh took it, the French took it, and the VietMinh retook it again. So yeah, they changed hands 3 times through 4 different possessions.
Yeah, that's actually how it went till the end, because then the VietMinh actually were sitting. The accent is the same was on the French side, and but VietMinh was digging this mine to blow up the crater. But it was a trench warfare for another 36 days or something like that. So it was a mess. Dien Bien Phu was a mess.
Certainly.
It was really a mess.
So because science
teacher
says in the chat, Moroccans, you don't often hear that in a war game. Yeah, that's the thing that happens in history. A great number of French units in World War I, World War II, and French Indochina, and also later Algeria and other Cold War conflicts are I guess, I don't know what the politically correct term is. The term at the time was colonial troops. I don't know if that's considered polite nowadays. But again, these were countries that were still part of what was, becoming, or what was still the French Empire at the time, the rapidly disintegrating French Empire. But for example, here we have our French Foreign Legion troops that we are, familiar with. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that alone. French Foreign Legion troops. And then what I made up for this game specifically was these Moroccan troops. So again, slightly lower numbers, and they don't have the E value for elite. But other than that, they behave the same as everybody else.
Yeah. We also had Algerians on Eliane 4.
Oh yeah, for sure. There were Algerians, and then again, even back in World War I, huge number of the French troops that fought in France were troops that were brought back home from all kinds of possessions that the French had at the time from abroad. And it was actually kind of a shame, because these people, didn't really want to be part of the French Empire, because who wants to be part of somebody else's empire, yet they still get called back to fight, bleed, and die for France against the Germans. And they died in huge numbers, because the French commanders did not exactly consider them at the same level as their own, countrymen, like their own, French regiments, divisions, and corps. And so they were often just kind of thrown in the battle as, borderline cannon fodder. And, a huge number of troops, especially from their African colonies at the time, were fed into the meat grinder in the big battles around in France during World War I. And again, that's not something that you hear often, but again, because science teachers comment, is you hear the French. The French fought in France during World War I. The French fought all over the place in World War II. Well, when you say French, you have to be careful, because you may be talking about Moroccans, Algerians. Same way with the British. The British did this, the British did that. You mean South Africans, you mean Australians, Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders, Kiwi. You got to be careful when it comes to these imperial troops, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that definitely was the case here at Dien Bien Phu. You have French Foreign Legion, which again, it's the Foreign Legion, so half of these French Foreign Legion people are not French, probably more than half. Are you allowed to be in the French Foreign Legion if you're actually French, or do you have to be from a foreign country? I actually don't know.
I really don't know, but I believe that you have to be from a foreign country.
Yeah, so
maybe they have French officers, but I'm not sure.
Well, according to March or Die, they don't have to be French officers. We all know Gene Hackman is an American. That's a historically accurate movie. But Jean-Claude Van Damme was Belgian, so I mean we know he wasn't.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness.
Yeah, but it's actually you gave me a cool idea. But I don't want to make any commitments or something like that. But 2 years later, after Dien Bien Phu, we have this little brawl in Algeria that lasted for like 6 years, I believe. Right?
That was a big one. Yeah, the Algerian Civil War that lasted until what, like 62, I think.
Yeah. And there were some officers from Dien Bien Phu that fought there.
Absolutely.
when it comes to paratroopers.
Every time I went into some of these online Osprey books, I managed to find information on French Foreign Legion paras. Half of the books I found and half of the materials I found, while interesting, had nothing to do with Dien Bien Phu. It was about Algeria. And yeah, it was like, yep, this guy was pretty badass because he actually survived Dien Bien Phu. He either got evacuated before the VietMinh shut down the airfield, or he somehow made it through VietMinh captivity and was released later on and came back to France and rejoined the Foreign Legion and got shipped right back to Algeria and took part in the next war.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and these guys are all over Africa, all over the Middle East. They're involved in Operation Musketeer. We talked about that in episode 1 of the Ops Center, where the French actually dropped paratroopers into the Suez Canal as part of one of the Arab-Israeli wars, believe it or not.
Oh yeah.
We have they're in Lebanon, and it's serious, man. Lebanon, it's when they go up there, like into the hills above Beirut, and people are coming back with bags full of ears. I mean, the French Foreign Legion, man, these guys do not play around. A lot of times people kind of make fun of the French when it comes to historical military history or whatever, but number one, that's not always warranted, and number two, the Foreign Legion, man, there are...
I do believe that when it comes to the French, they are viewed from the perspective of the 1940 campaign, when they got beaten in like a month, without diving into any serious history here. But I do believe that they are so through the lenses of the 1940 campaign, and that's a real shame, because there were many really good units on the French side. And when it comes to the French side, I'm also talking about Moroccans, Algerians, and all the people that fought for them during the war.
Yeah, I would totally agree that a lot of when people think about the French, military history-wise in the 20th century, it's centered around the 1940 campaign, and even that is unfair, because at least in the Western world, 90% of what we think we know about World War II comes from British history. Because Winston Churchill and some of his other fellow historians and writers were the first wave of history written on World War II, 1945 to 1950. They didn't think very highly of the French, number one, so there's a little bit of bias in that. And number two, specifically vis-a-vis the 1940 campaign, people almost universally, at least in the Western world, who read either British history or British influenced history, will say, okay, the Germans invaded, there was this big outflanking maneuver, we got pinned up at Dunkirk, we evacuated from Dunkirk, and France fell. That's not how it happened. Yes, Dunkirk happened, that's the end of stage 1. What always gets forgotten about is stage 2. The Germans technically called it Case Red. It's not even the same offensive. They paused for a week, they reorganized their armies, they pivoted to the south, and there's this other whole invasion that takes place southwards towards Paris. And there the French start doing, it was too late to win the war, but the French locally and tactically start doing really well. Battle of Juneville, 10 June 1940. There's some battles along the Seine, there's some battles along the Somme, where all of a sudden the French army it's just too late, because they've already been fatally compromised. But all of a sudden the French start doing a lot better. German casualties go through the roof. Guderian writes about it in his memoirs. And the French lost 96,000 dead in that campaign, and God knows 500,000 wounded. Yeah. You don't take those kind of losses by giving up and running away and not putting up a fight.
That's true.
But admittedly, 2/3 of this, or 3/4 of that, takes place after the British have largely exited the campaign at Dunkirk, so it's not widely written about in most Western military histories.
Yeah, of course, because I must agree, because when you take a book about the 1940 campaign, it's usually, the maneuver, Eben Emael, then you go to Dunkirk, and in the meanwhile you have the counter-attack at Arras, and that's it.
Yeah, it's Guderian's 19th Panzer Corps coming through the Ardennes. It's the sickle cut. Ebn is up in the Low Countries, up in is that Belgium or Holland or the Netherlands?
It's Belgium.
It
I
is
believe
Belgium. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of a holding maneuver. That's Army Group B. Army Group A is the one that launches the main assault, spearheaded by Guderian's 19th Panzer Corps. You got Stone. You've got it's just north of Verdun, and then you've got that big hook up to the north. That's where Arras takes place. After Arras comes Dunkirk. The evacuation at Dunkirk goes down from, I think it's May 28th to June 2nd or something, and that's it. Then there's like crickets, and then the French eventually surrender on, later on in June. I think it's like June 18th. But the French, man, did a lot better in the second half of that campaign, case red, not case yellow. And all this even leaves out what the French did to the Italians along the Alpine border down in the south. Six French divisions fought like 10 times their number of Italians and absolutely pimp slapped those fools back into northern Italy. So yeah, the French, again, there's a lot of problems there. They did not do well at the beginning part of that campaign. You have the Vichy angle, or Vichy to pronounce it better. So yeah, there's a lot of problems. But they did better than is often portrayed. They deserve more credit than they get, and that's not me just trying to be politically correct. That's there's a lot of history that's not as well. I mean, it's written, it's just not as widely read. Syria, Madagascar, what happened all up and down North Africa. Patton. Everyone talks about how great a general Patton was. Patton got the shit kicked out of him by the Vichy French up in Casablanca, at least for a day or two. That was not a bloodless attack. Torch, and it wasn't against Germans, it was against the Vichy French, who were supposedly going to be our allies because they were technically French, but again, get your tanks off my lawn. We didn't say you could come in here. Again, there's a lot of confusion about Vichy French, Free French, the assassination of Darlan, and all this other stuff going on. The French Navy gets sunk by the British Navy at Mers El Kabir, if I'm saying that right. It's a mess. It really is a mess. They really get treated unfairly during the war, and they got treated unfairly after the war, to be perfectly honest.
That's true. And you know why they did well in 1940 in the second part, the case red? Shots fired, because the British left.
Oh, yeah. Now that the British are out of the way, we might actually start doing better.
It's a joke, of course. But yeah, the French are not given the credit they should be, and but it's probably what you are saying, because the first books that were written, and then many of them were copied in later books, was the Anglo-Saxon perspective on the war. So that's true, and you can see it in the culture in later years. So you have Allo, where who's the French resistance? These are women, actually, because let's make of the French guys. So who's the La Resistance? The women are. So
then you get guys like Leclerc. If I'm saying his name correctly, he coordinates with the SAS, or not the SAS at the time, the LRDG in southern Libya, and there's just a lot of They named a tank after him, so we know he did really well.
Yeah, sure, and you can see how well Leclerc was doing in Indochina at the beginning when he was the commander-in-chief. When it comes to that part of the war, he was putting a real good fight, and he was trying to negotiate with Ho Chi Minh. And what we are seeing at Dien Bien Phu at the beginning is that the VietMinh were not really trying to kill as many French as they could, because they were at Beatrice 1. They were trying to give back the wounded, to exchange the wounded, to give a truce.
That whole ceasefire that happened.
That whole ceasefire, but then we Europeans decided that I'm talking we, because we tend to do that with these guys in Asia and Africa and like that. Okay, we are trading the wounded guys, and we are at the same time shipping in supplies and stuff like that while there's a ceasefire. And when the VietMinh got to know about it from the French newspapers, which is an irony, they decided no more ceasefires. We are shooting everything, including planes that are taking care of the taking out the wounded because they are flying in supplies. And that's when it changed. They stopped, trying to be nice to the French guys they captured.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna happen that way. Like, we'll handle this in as civilized a way as we can, up until we have an excuse not to, or up until you treat us a certain way. Then all of a sudden, okay, the hell, the gloves are off. Now it's on. And as far as that almost cultural underestimation of people from other continents, that's especially in Asia. That's gone on. Yeah, it's not just Europeans. Americans made the same mistake too. The Russians did it in 1905. The Germans did it during World War I when the Japanese were an allied country in World War I. The Japanese kind of kicked the crap out of some German garrisons in China, Tsingtao and places like that in World War I. Then we get the British, the French during the early part of World War II. The Americans actually had it in their heads that I think this was Americans, that Japanese fighter pilots or bomber pilots were never going to be any good because they were carried on their mothers' backs as children and thus had an innately poor sense of balance. So because they got carried around in backpacks when they were kids, there's no way a Japanese man could grow up to be a good fighter pilot. I'm pretty sure this was right before Pearl Harbor, where the Japanese demonstrated pretty clearly that they could actually fly airplanes pretty well. And that was the end of that little misestimation there.
Yeah, that's true.
But then,
but I haven't heard that story. It's really interesting.
I can't remember if that was British or if that was American, but I do know that was true. That was a general perception that when Japanese mothers are raising their kids as infants, they just stick their kids in. Now everybody does it, but back then I think it was a Japanese thing mostly. They put their kids in a backpack and they walk around with them or whatever. Like they didn't have baby carriages or strollers; they had backpacks. Well, Japanese kids grow up without any kind of a sense of balance, so they're not going to be terrible fighter pilots. Oh, really? Well, Vice Admiral Nagumo has some news for you. To be delivered on 7 December 1941. Oh my God, these Japanese, and this is after the Japanese Air Force and Navy has been doing well in China since 1937. Even Americans in the Flying Tigers were fighting against Japanese pilots in Zeros, saying, you know what, these Japanese pilots really can fly, and by the way, they've got some kick-ass aircraft. Do not underestimate these people. And before you know it, Pearl Harbor, the sinking of Repulse, the sinking of Prince of Wales, Battle of Java Sea, it's just defeat after defeat, and eventually it sinks in. These are a serious enemy. And then, like you were saying before, it almost becomes from like, we're not going to take this war seriously, we're just going to kind of slap you around a little bit to, this is an actual war. Okay, before you know it, we're dropping atomic bombs on them. It's like two extremes. It's one to the other.
Yeah, and to tie what you were saying about the Flying Tigers with the Dien Bien Phu motif over here that we're playing, they were present over here at the Dien Bien Phu, the Flying Tigers.
That I did not know. I had no idea.
And they were flying in supplies mostly, and actually that was their job. But they stopped on April 19th. The last thing they did was drop some napalm around Huguet 6, I believe.
I knew about Operation Vulture. So were they? It wasn't the same squadron. Was it some of the same pilots, or?
Yeah, some of the same pilots.
Okay.
But they were there, and
cool.
Then they said, you know what? It's too risky. They have like 120 37mm anti-aircraft guns, and I believe 150 20.7mm. These heavy machine guns.
Yeah, VietMinh air defense around Dien Bien Phu completely shut down the French Air Force.
That's true.
And that got even worse when the ground positions overran, like the one really good airstrip. And without air power, now it became strictly a matter of artillery, and the Vietminh artillery was just dominant in Dien Bien Phu. I mean, you know that. And then they outnumbered them on the ground at least 5-1. It depends on how you count it up. It may be as high as 10-1, but it was at least 5-1 by the most conservative measures. So the only advantage that the French ever had was air. It was never enough. And then by the time they brought in all that air defense plus took the airfield, that was just the end of that air advantage. And after that, it was pretty much the writing was on the wall at that point.
Yeah, actually, from day one, the airstrip was inoperational because of the C190 Packard being destroyed by the artillery. So they cannot use the airstrip, and in the middle of April, you know, the VietMinh dug a trench straight through the middle of the airfield, and it was impossible to drop any more supplies to the base without 10 or 20% of them getting into Vietminh hands. And it was quite nice because they captured some 105mm field guns, and like 20% of the ammo dropped for these guns by the Air Force was being accumulated by VietMinh because it dropped on their side of the trenches.
Yeah, that's almost like the end of A Bridge Too Far when the German general gives Anthony Hopkins some chocolate. He's like, "This is good chocolate. Here you go. Your planes dropped it to us yesterday."
Oh yeah.
So hey, thanks a lot, dude. All right, so Rasmus says those battles in Panzer General are some of the worst games in the entire campaign. Yeah, good old Panzer General. I want to replay that. You know, I may actually stream that one of these days. If I can figure out how to actually show that and stream it, I may actually play some Panzer General on stream. Now that we no longer do strictly modern stuff. Yeah, I'm assuming he's talking about the invasion of France battles. All right, guys, so we've been streaming for a little over an hour now. I do have to kind of get back to work here. I know it's late where Piotr is. Piotr, did you have anything else you wanted to add to the stream before we signed off?
Not really. Thanks for watching, and I hope that we will be able to continue with the Dien Bien Phu, maybe the final assault somewhere in the near future, but it all depends on Jim and his wonderful, you know, skills of designing maps and counters. So.
Yeah, the counters are mostly done at this point. Yeah, I was thinking maybe, because now this is like our third game. Again, we've run some of the games more than once. So this is our third scenario now completed in the Dien Bien Phu. I'm thinking maybe one more. Yeah, if you wanted to do like one of the final assaults on the actual main airfield, like sometime next week.
We can do that if you're up for it, because, you know, it all depends actually on you. I'm just the guy that's using your talents.
Oh, yeah, no worries. It might be a week. It might be a little bit more than a week. But, yeah, I do want to do at least one more, and just to kind of round it out. I don't know if I'd want to do a fifth, but one more to get us to 4 and to kind of wrap up the... Because you got to do that last assault at least once. I mean, that's like the iconic Dien Bien Phu moment there. You got to do that at least once.
That's true.
All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and log off the stream. Thanks very much for coming by, everybody. Appreciate your support of Sitrep now and always. And okay, so I'm not sure if the team is going to be doing a podcast or a live stream on Saturday. I will be streaming on Sunday. We'll be doing some more Rebellion, some more Battlefield Rebellion with Dylan over in Australia. We may be bringing in some Hessians or some Iroquois Native Americans. We're going to get some black powder action going for you on Sunday. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and log off. Thanks again for your support. Wash your hands. Stay inside. Don't let anyone cough on you. Don't, you know, do all the. You guys know the drill by now. Jeez whiz. We're on like day 48 of quarantine over here. So if you don't know the drill, if you don't know the drill by now, you probably already have the virus. So don't do that. Stay home. Stay safe. And I will be in touch with everybody later on this weekend. Take care, everybody.
Sure. Bye.